Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm here with co-host Gary Farmer. Hey, Gary.
Scanos Fuego, everybody. Yeah. Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, October 18 to 22, 2023.
We're international now, Gary.
That's what I said, right?
So today we're doing an exciting group of people. It's going to be a little bit of a panel discussion. We're here with young filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker Shaandiin Tome. Did I say it right? The last name right?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
You got it.
I was almost going to say it the New Mexican way, which you probably get a lot. And director, auteur, writer, and director of Frybread Face, Billy Luther. Hey, Billy, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We've also got Daniel Gibson. He's writing a feature,
State of Native Film.
State of Native Film, and that'll be in the Santa Fe Indian Market magazine. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Daniel, and please, we've got a really good group. We're looking forward to a lively discussion. So please let us know what you're thinking about for this piece that'll be coming out before August.
So it's really an honor to get to talk to you two young Native filmmakers. You guys are really doing some amazing work. I looked at your bios online and stuff, and it's really impressive what you've done. And so yeah, I'm pursuing this theme. I'm going to talk to a group of Native filmmakers, just kind of what their assessment of the state of Native film is at. Is it at a healthy place? Is it moving in the right direction? What are some of the obstacles that still stand in the way? And maybe each of you could take a shot at that.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'll just go first. I guess.
Thank you.
I've been in this business for about 20 years, and I think I've seen different experiences within even 10 years ago. Um, you know, uh, I think right now we're moving in a good direction. There's some momentum happening. I think really everybody who I've been in labs with or in programs or different organizations, whether it be, Film Independent or Sundance or, I've just seen this momentum happening. And it's kind of like we've been around for a while, and we haven't really, it's just, we're not new to it. So, Shaandiin and I have probably known each other for about 10 years, maybe more of that, but working. And I think it's, we're in a good place right now. And we can dive in more to it. But I think right now it's in a healthy place.
That's great. So maybe a follow-up question to that is what do you attribute this to? Is it Sundance? Is it Bird Running Water and all that he's brought to the table? Is it a combination of is society moving in a better direction?
I think it's, I think I think what the institute did was it was great in terms of like helping us make our first features or our first films. But I think society has changed. Something shifted, I think, right before the pandemic happened. And once that shift happened, and I'm still trying to calculate what that was, but people were wanting new content. People were, audiences were wanting something fresh. I think everybody's eyes during the pandemic, we were all at home watching, and we were like, we need new content. So what was happening, as for me here, and I live in LA, and I'm also Navajo, Hopi, and Laguna Pueblo. So my tribes are all in the Southwest. Was I was doing a lot more meetings than I ever had in my entire career because everyone was doing Zooms now, and it was like, hey, we need new content. We knew so all this was happening during. So there was a lot of creativity happening during the pandemic, and I was meeting with people that I was trying to get into, in places that I, wasn't able to at the, year or two before. So I think, yeah, audiences wanted something new. And what was happening was I, started, doing a lot of work and development on my feature, Frybread Face of Me. And I went through labs with that and started doing some development on it. And right after, in the summer of 2021, we went right into production. And that was rare. Because nobody was making films at the time. So we were all kind of like, we were shooting a film during the pandemic. And then at that time we wrapped, Reservation Dogs just came, it premiered on television. Like that final week, we were wrapping up Frybread Face. So, I think that, and Shaandiin can talk about it too. I think it's just been in a healthy place. I think there's still a lot more to do. And I just think right now it's going well. But I think it's more so audiences and also the creatives, in all of these kind of streamers, networks are looking for something new.
Great. That's a terrific response. I would like to come back and ask you what are still some of the obstacles, but before we get too far along, Shaandiin, what do you have to say about the state of Native film, and is it moving in positive directions? And if so, what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think Billy put it perfectly. There is something that really disrupt kind of like the norms of everything during the pandemic. I think it was a lot of like what was happening with like Black Lives Matter. With Black Lives Matter, I think really showed that like a lot of society was tired of like kind of seeing the same things and not seeing brown people, people of color, Black people, Indigenous people held to a place that they were celebrated and loved. And I think like stories like Billy's stories, like other filmmakers who have been working at this for so long have been crafting these things for a really like long period of time. And I think it's great that there has been this momentum, but I think like to say that it hasn't been there before, like a lot of Native people I know have been creating for so long and are just now getting their break. And I think it's really sad to see that like some have been pushed aside. And I think like there's so much room for other stories that are on this giant spectrum of what it means to be Indigenous. And I'm very happy for all of the things that exist right now. But I think there's a lot more. And I think like we need more resources, we need more like funding, more people and places that like help make those decisions and help with that support system, because like the only way that Indigenous stories are going to feel more real and like loving is by having like Native crews. And like that's something that I aspire to. Like Billy, I was on his set for a couple of days and was just like he has Native crew everywhere. And like maybe these people haven't worked like within the union before, but it's like really amazing that he like went out to bat for every single one of them. And I think it takes a lot of trust and care. And I think for someone like Billy to like set the standard of that is so important, to show like that we can own our stories in more ways than just like directing and writing.
Gary, I don't want to dominate the questions here or even take it in a direction you weren't interested in pursuing. So I have additional things I could certainly ask, but you guys want to chime in?
Yeah, I just, as an actor during the pandemic, when, listening to you both qualify that, I mean, you got to realize it was an amazing period where everything had to finally stop. I was so happy. I, I rode my bike everywhere, and I had the best time of my life when things stopped. But as the actor during that period, I never worked so much in my life, my 70 years. So it was a wonderful thing. Um, but I got this quote here. It was from a recent article on Shaandiin, actually. It says industries blossom with critically acclaimed work by a new generation of Indigenous artists. And when I look at Billy's new film, but Frybread Face and Me, he has the most amazing young talent, all from indigenous territories around the globe. Well, mostly North America, but do tell us some of that, Billy.
Yeah, well, my leads are, 11-year-old Navajo kids. So I had to go in and look for those kids during the pandemic. So everything was in Zoom. We worked with Mid Thunder Casting, Angelique Mid Thunder, and she had cast Reservation Dogs. So she had her hand already in a group of kids, for Red's Dogs. And so that helped us a bit, kind of get down to our search. Um, and I work with. I've always wanted to work with Martin Sensmeyer, and he is one of our badass native actors out there. And I had written actually this role for him, and it was just really kind of trying to get him to do it. And his schedule was, but so it worked out perfectly. Jeremiah Bitsui worked with, from Breaking Bad fame and Dark Winds, and then also, what is it, Morningstar, Angeline, who is, Outer Range, among others, great films. Um, I think that I really wanted to work with these people, and a lot of them come from the Dene land. And my film, is a coming of age story, and it's about these two young kids who bond their summer on the sheep ranch on the Navajo Res in Arizona, and their aunties and uncles come in and out of their lives, during that on the ranch during that summer. And once the Navajos read this script, they were like, I know my auntie is like this, or I know an uncle like this. So it was really great for everyone to kind of, on set talk about your aunties and uncles, and really have that bond that we were creating on set. So yeah, and it hit me. I think it was a one scene where I had all 8 actors, um, native actors in a room, and I was directing, and we were holding for lighting or something. And I just looked at the camera, and I looked at, and I thought, this is really fucking cool. I am directing all Indians in on the screen. And I look back, and my crew, there's Navajo. We have Ryan Begay also, and our makeup, and our, prop we're just like, these are Dene people too. And I'm like, so wild. And it hit me. And I was like, I didn't get too emotional, but I was like, this is awesome. I am doing something that I always wanted to do. Ever since I was 8 years old, I wanted to tell stories, I wanted to write, I wanted to direct. And it hit me that day. And I think that was one of the special days that we have. And I think that those are the times and those moments that you really find that it's important that we need not only natives, behind the camera, writing and directing or acting, but in these other areas. I'm always looking for native composers and native editors. And that's one of the things I'm really looking for, is native editors. But going back to kind of that experience of like just having an all native cast for the directing, yeah, that was something that I just felt, it felt good.
And I think collaboration has a lot to do with it. And sometimes we collaborate outside of our communities, like, the 2022 Best Doc Short at the South by Southwest that Shaandiin directed, called Long Line of Ladies. It's one of the most visually beautiful films I've seen. But when you look at the directors, it's both Shaandiin and a director from, Iran. How did that collaboration begin, Shaandiin?
Yeah, I mean, Rika was my co-director on that. She's Iranian American, raised in LA, and had like a crazy experience growing up. But I think like the binder between like both of our visions for the film was um like menstrual positivity, and like what it means for someone to menstruate for the first time, and like how that's such a taboo thing. And like we found this community, and I think also like in my own community, Dene people, we have the Kinalta, which I didn't get to have mine, and I think there was something about that felt very moving for me to like want to do a documentary about this. And I think there was something that came up a lot, and I think it was like Pim, the mother, talked about it, was about like the access to tradition, and like how you hold that and how you share with others. And I think something like that is so important, and beautiful. And it was just like such an amazing time, not just like collaborating with someone who is non-indigenous, but also like having another indigenous tribe, like native tribe, the Keduk and Yurok people, to like talk with and share stories, but also find like what is that specificity, and like what is that trust. And I think overall it just was like a lot of like questioning and loving, and trying to figure out like where our hearts were the whole entire time. And I think that happens. And that's why I love film, is because it's constantly making you question yourself and like, what's the need for this story? And it ends up becoming something that's so much bigger than yourself. And I think we talked about that a lot, is like the grandness of like making a film is something that will live on past you. And like, how can you make sure that you're doing the right thing while also like expressing yourself in a way that feels like healthy and loving.
But also that contrast between sacred and what you can shoot and what you can't shoot, and most traditional ceremonial life within the Native community is not necessarily open for cameras. That was the situation with this film, Long Line of Ladies. You did so
Yeah.
magnificently with that. Tell us a bit about that experience and how you came to that.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to like yourself and like your growing up, like my dad told me like shooting ceremony is like not a good thing. Like you don't do that. And so like that always stayed with me. And I think like the family at first, they asked their community and they said like it would be okay for us to shoot the ceremony. But I think for us, it was more of like a challenge to like, how can we take the essence of something like a ceremony that's like filled in everyday life, and like you're constantly doing ceremony every day, like you're with your family, you're building these relationships with other things. And I think like for somebody to understand the context of a ceremony and like how they can appreciate it, as being people that aren't from the tribe, is like more important for us than us like showing what's happening in a ceremony. Like we want people to understand that a ceremony, above all, for like this specific case, is like love, it's family, it's upholding a young woman at a time in her life that is like so important. And we wanted people to come away with that feeling rather than seeing something that they didn't know and like had like power over. And I think like exploitation is something that's so prevalent in documentary, especially of like Native peoples. It's very ethnographic. And so the aim was to make something that was emotional and loving and caring. And I think there's so many cases of that in Native film everywhere. Is like the line between like where you want to save something for yourself and like when you want to share something. And I think it's definitely something I think about all the time now, when I'm writing, when I'm shooting other people's projects, is like, how can you take a risk with like holding something for yourself instead of sharing everything? Because like film isn't just about showing things, it's about like, how do you craft a story, position the camera in a way that creates perspective. And I think we definitely tried to do that with Long Line of Ladies.
Beautiful job. Daniel?
Yeah, come back to my kind of line of questioning of the state of Native film. It seems like, you know, the first hurdle was Native actors. Um, Lots of Native actors now, mainstream roles, even with other non-Native mainstream people like the English I just saw the other night. Then there came Native writers and Native directors on that side of the equation. And now we're getting Native technicians, you know, as you said, cameramen, editors, though there needs to be more. So it would seem to me that the missing piece of this, the next hurdle might be, you know, the executive at the executive level, in studios, producers. You know, I guess Jane Myers had a big breakthrough with her role, title of a producer title on the latest Predator film. That to me seems like a milestone. So what do you guys see? Am I on the right? Is that the next frontier, so to speak?
Yeah, you know, I think you're kind of right on kind of that. You know, you look at someone like Taika Waititi, who has you know, been an EP on Reservation Dogs and helped, you know, Sterling with that and get that off the ground, and it becomes his hit show. Taika was also an EP on Frybread Face, and my feature. and that helped a lot too with our financing, and and I mean, it does help, because Taika is a star, and that really people want to work with him. And I think that, I think Sterling's doing that now too. I think there's some shows that are in development now that he now that he has this hit on his hand, people are talking about him. So he is. And that's kind of where, it just kind of we're giving back. And that's what our people who came before us. And I don't want to, forget those filmmakers who came before us and who really worked and had a hand in that. Meritamita, you have, filmmakers like Joy Harjo, you have, all those people who I was working with, 20 years ago, just, as an intern or what, are it's just, giving back to our youth and helping them in any way. And I believe in that, and I think that that's really important for us to thrive, because one of those days those younger kids are going to be running, running Netflix, and I'm going to need a job.
That's funny. Shaandiin, do you think getting people in executive positions is kind of the next step up to maybe control finances, to help with publicity, to green light projects with major studios? Is that coming?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already starting to happen, which is great. I think like the thing that I notice when I work with other Native people, on like my projects, on other projects, like surrounding yourself with Native people is always just so great. Like you always have an advocate on your side for like making those risks. And that's like all I think art is about, is like being able to express yourself in ways that feel real and true. And I think the standard of Hollywood sometimes is very middle line and middle ground. And I think to like take those risks is necessary to like disrupt something. And so I think it's important to have an advocate for yourself through anything, like whether it's executives, whether it's like the person who's helping you frame up the shot. I think all of those steps are like so nice to have a team and somebody that you can turn to that you trust, and that you trust with your vision or like whatever. I think that kind of stuff is just, it's priceless in a way. Like you just can't explain the feeling of what it's like for somebody to just understand you from like day one, without even like saying anything. You just know that your experiences are aligned in ways that like you can't even say. And so I feel like it's just so important. There's less explaining, there's less arguing, there's more creativity and collaborating.
We should know that Shaandiin's on set for the new Taylor Sheridan series.
Could each of the creatives here briefly tell us what you're focused on now? What's kind of in the pipeline for you, as much as you can reveal? I'm always interested in what's coming.
Yeah, I just premiered Frybread face over at South by Southwest. So we are looking for a distribution. So we're doing a little festival circuit right now. And I'm developing my first documentary, Miss Navajo, into a feature. So that has been a work in progress. And I've been on Dark Winds for 2 seasons now as a writer and director. So we're probably going to premiere that in July, I think, maybe this summer. I should say just summer. But yeah, just constant, and then just taking meetings, just kind of like, I'm always getting kind of stuff pitched and what, but I started in documentaries, and I really love that craft and that form of storytelling, and I'll always have my hand in it. So yeah,
that's a lot. That's 3 or 4 things up in the air at once. So that's exciting. I know you have to have a lot of balls in the air, because some of them end up hitting the ground. So, and how about you, Shaandiin?
I shoot a lot. So I mostly do cinematography and directing. But yeah, I'm shooting a lot of stuff at the beginning of this year. I'm writing a feature right now. And so I'm hoping to shoot a short late spring here. That's a proof of concept for my feature. And then just hoping to finish my feature at some point. But yeah, I think like I mean, it's inspiring to have somebody like Billy here, because I think like knowing somebody that's also in the narrative and doc space, like it's something that I never really want to fully give up, is just moving to one. I think they challenge each other. And so like I definitely want to move over to narrative now, because like I have been working in doc for so long, but there's definitely going to be times where I just like want to work in doc. Like they fuel each other a lot. So
What genre is your feature in? If you could, is sci-fi, western, rom-com, what?
it's actually different genres. It's the life of a car through all the different people that own it. And so it's a take on what is like capitalism, and like how do you value things, and how do you value like an object specifically. So it follows a lot of different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and it ends up with native family. So yeah, really excited about it.
Well, with America's love of the automobile, I think that's probably a pretty central topic. I think a lot of people can relate to that subject. So good luck with that.
I know, Shaandiin, you also quoted as we are more openly celebrating who we are. And I think that's really true. Like we're Native America is opening its heart once again, waiting for it to get stammered one more time. But I think that's a really true statement. Do you feel that too, Billy?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's we're hungry for it. You know, you can just tell with people, you know, on social media, you know, talking about, you know, these Rutherford Falls, you know, reservation dogs, you know, people are excited about that and want to see themselves, you know, and that's kind of why I wanted to be a filmmaker. You know, I didn't see myself, and I would go to the films and 8, 9 years old and see others people, and I just had stories that I wanted to tell. So I think it's great for the next generation to kind of see, you know, people like them, and just identify. I think, you know, like representation, just it truly does matter.
Oh, I think just the like just mirroring what Billy said, I think like there's something, I think the reason why I said that more openly celebrating like ourselves, I think comes from a very individual level. Like I've learned so much about myself and who I am growing up in like a suburb, and being like an urban native, and like feeling I had to like fit a mold of something. But as I continue to storytell, like I just like remember like how loved I am, like how many generations of like family came before me for me to get to this place. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing to be in this time right now and be able to tell exciting stories.
You guys may have heard that Chad Burris, Chickasaw, was elected or appointed as the first executive director of the New Mexico Media Academy in Albuquerque. Just last week, it was officially announced, and the state is talking about, I think, devoting $200 million to the facility to encourage filmmaking of all kinds in New Mexico. But of course, you know, with his background and his experience and who he's worked with, I think it's going to include a significant number of native projects, and just was wondering if you've heard about that, and what do you think about that?
That makes me so excited. It's the first I've heard of it. And so I live in Albuquerque, so I'm really stoked about it. No, that's amazing. Did not know that news, and I think something like that is just like so needed for like people, like native people specifically, to get into a place that they can like practice and they can learn and take more non-traditional routes of learning too, because like not everybody is equipped to go to school for that, has like the means or resources for that. So I think any way that like you can get more people into film that's non-traditional is like just so incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, especially Chad Burris has been producing films for a really long time. You know, I think he started with Sterling Harjo's first features, um, and you know has worked in a lot of native talent. You know, in their first films, he produced Frybread Face. So I mean, he is a great human, and he is a strong producer. So I think this is perfect for, the New Mexico state. And I think that I think he's excited about it. I didn't know about it until I got back from South by, and I was like, you kept this from me.
Speaking of big projects too, we have the film coming out sometime in the next few months. Children of the Flower Moon. Is that the title?
Killers of the Flower Moon premieres next month in Cannes.
Right. And Gary was just mentioning that it's Martin Scorsese's directing, a lot of big name actors. So, is that a step in the right direction? I mean, it's a native story, but it will probably have a non-native protagonist. Is it another Dances with Wolves kind of thing that brings attention to native people, but they're in the background? Or is this a good thing? Is it going to elevate everybody's game and certainly the actors and actresses in it?
I think it's probably helpful for the actors. I think America just has this fascination and this romanticism with Native in the past. They really love this flowy, the hair and the beautiful costumes, and that kind of era of and now I think it's great because we're giving people a different look inside the contemporary world of Native Americans, so that we could see this. And I don't know. I mean, it could be a good movie. I don't know. I'm a Scorsese fan, and Lily Gladstone is a friend, and I'm really excited for her. Yeah, I can't say. Was it 4 hours too? I don't know. Can Indians hold off for 4 hours in a movie theater? I don't think I don't think so. But I mean, it looks great, and hey.
Shaandiin, what do you think of it? Of a big, huge budget film with major producer, director, actors.
Yeah,
Is this good for?
I always my mind with big budget films always goes to like how many independent films could you make with that one big budget? But I'm also a Scorsese fan. I'm really excited for the actors. I think there's a lot of mixed feelings about it for me. It is IP from a book. I mean, it's all obviously real too, but I think there's something about it that makes me wish that there could be a lot more original stories out there that came from a perspective that's much needed. But I think yeah, I think Billy put it right. There's an interesting obsession with period piece natives, but I think I'm excited for it nonetheless.
I always used to say that's why I always stayed chubby, so I didn't have to be no starving Indian during the making of the USA. They had to put me in a contemporary form, right? So you just stay chubby, right?
I love that.
Gary, do you mind if I turn the attention to you, Gary, for a moment, since we have you here?
No, not at all.
What are you up to? What's on your horizon?
I'm just finishing 8 more episodes of a popular series called Resident Alien, which is about an alien that comes to Earth and with the intention to destroy it, but doesn't really have to because it's going to destroy itself. But no, um, it's really comic. It's a belly laugh kind of a show, and I just love participating with it. Wonderful showrunner, the name of Chris Sheridan. He did Family Guy a long time ago. Amazing fellow. And I'm also going back for Reservation Dogs for my, you know, grateful to continue to participate. I feel happy because I think I got my cousin, Graham Greene's my cousin, and we used to be really close when we were younger actors, and we watched each other just kind of go, in different directions, and I had lunch with him, and he just when I was back home or from the same community, he lived across the road from me as a child, and my grandparents. So there was like a lot of children in his family, and I was the only one for 8 years. So he used to come and play with all my things, But he doesn't very seldomly ask me things, and he asked me if he could get into. He'd like to be in Reservation Dogs. So all I can do is next time I see Sterling live, I say, Graham wants to play. So I think I got him in. So that'll be kind of fun. A couple of, it just adds to the old timers, with Wesley and all the others, that are up there. So it's a lot of fun that way.
It's a terrific show, and yeah, who could say no to Graham Greene wanting in? So
Yeah,
I see
exactly.
his future in Reservation Dogs.
Maybe it's a secret. Maybe I let it out. I'm sure I set it up, so I guess I can let it out.
Go ahead, Daniel.
And I was curious. It must be encouraging to be a native filmmaker now. I mean, you started off noting Billy, what it was like 15, 20 years ago. I mean, you guys are breaking out all over. You're directing, you're shooting, you're acting, you're composing. It must. Are you encouraged by the direction things are heading in? I'm sure the individual going out and raising the funds for a particular project, it's still tough as hell, but overall is.
Yeah, I like where it's at. I mean, I think there's a lot more to do. I think that people are getting to know us, and I think that's really helpful in any kind of development. I'm meeting with, like I said, these streamers, big streamers, and big showrunners and producers, and I mean, it's cool because they've read my script, and I think that, one of the things that I kind of look at is like, you just don't give up, and I just, it was really hard, it's doing my first film, 20 years ago, and then trying to stay with it. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, it's not going to happen, and it's just, you just got to stick with it. And if it's really, truly, what you want to do, you just stick with it. And the great thing is that there's such a small group of us right now, so we all know each other, in a really cool way, really, maybe we're not really close, but like Shaandiin and I, like I said, we've known each other for about 10 years now. And Taika and Sterling and Bird Running Water and I have known each other for over 20 years. And it's just been really fascinating to see everybody thrive and succeed. And, we're helpful and we ask for help, and still, hey, read the script and see if it, and Black Horse Low too, man. There's really exciting things. And like I said, I can't believe the success that is coming to a lot of these, and watching Shaandiin's career grow. And I mean, amazing photographer, DP, and I'm going to work with Shaandiin one day. It's going to happen.
Let me add that Shaandiin won with The Long Line of Ladies the audience choice for Best Short Documentary at the Santa Fe International Film Fest in October. And so congrats on that. And I guess my question for you, Billy, is what are you up to in October?
I guess I'm going to show my movie at your festival, right?
That was the answer I was hoping for. Maybe we can get Chris Eyre involved too. I know Chad's living here, but I think that would be really exciting if the timing is right. Would be a really, exciting event.
We shot in New Mexico. A lot of our crew was there, and I think that's going to be a really, really good premiere if we do something in New Mexico. And yeah, I would definitely want that to happen. So yeah, let's keep the conversation going.
Gary, anything else before we go? That's a show pretty much.
No, I'm really happy with everybody kind of helping out and bringing forth. Yeah, and thank you again, Dan, for participating. Great questions, and
thank you, Dan.
Let them know about our little radio show here in your story. Appreciate it.
I certainly will, and it's great to meet you, Billy and Shaandiin, and I really am excited by your careers and can't wait to see what you do next. And we didn't even touch upon Shaandiin's commercial or brand work, which is very impressive too. Wow. Some of your clients are Fortune 500 companies. So congrats on that. And Jacques, thanks for asking me. I love doing this. And if you ever need another talking head, I'm here.
So everybody, look out in the Santa Fe Indian Market magazine for Daniel Gibson's article on the state of native film. And this was Shaandiin Tome and Billy Luther. We'll see you next week.